Chapter 5, Section 3 is going to be about solving multi-step inequalities. Now, already in the first two sections, you've been doing this. So this is going to be kind of a review section for us and just kind of give us some more practice on solving these inequalities. You have already seen problems where you had to add or subtract and then multiply or divide. We've seen those separately in the individual sections and we've seen them combined. So we've kind of been already working towards this and you've already done problems like this. So like I said, this section really should ideally be kind of an easier section for you because there's not going to be really any new learning. It's going to be a lot of review. What I've got up here is just kind of what are those steps that we've been following and what do they look like. So I'm just kind of reviewing them with you guys so you kind of know what they look like again and what the process is for these problems. So all of your terms need to be separated by addition or subtraction. That would just mean that if you see anything that has like a parentheses, you want to clear those parentheses first, which I don't really think we've seen much of that yet. So you might see a little bit of that show up today. But you've done it before with a regular equation. So again, not new stuff. It's just now applying it to these inequality problems. So if you have a problem that has parentheses, you'll need to clear those first. And a lot of times that involves using the distributive property in order to get rid of those parentheses. So you'll do that first if you need to. Then you want to make sure that you get the variable term by itself. So you want to move like your plain numbers together, and that's using addition or subtraction to move those signs or to move those numbers around. Remember that you always just do the opposite operation of what you see. So if it has a plus sign to begin with, then you would subtract and vice versa. Then you want to make sure that you get like the letter term by itself. So you're going to use division or multiplication in order to get the letter alone. If you need to at any time, like switch your equation around so that you can get your x and y, or I'm sorry, not your x and y, your x on the left-hand side of the inequality and then your number on the right-hand side of the inequality. We've seen that before where you can just flip the whole problem around. Just make sure if you do that, that you also flip that inequality sign around so that the alligator mouth opens up to the correct side. And I just have a note there saying that like your inequalities are the exact same steps as solving an equation. You just have to be really careful if you're ever multiplying or dividing by a negative that you watch for that, because that we talked about that rule and how if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative that you have to switch the inequality sign. Okay? Alright, so let's take a look at this example here. We've got 5x minus 8 greater than 4 times x minus 3. So we do see parentheses. So the first thing that they did is they took this 4 and they used a distributive property to get 4 through. So now it says 5x minus 8 greater than 4x minus 12. Then what they did, if you look, is they switched, like we had 5x and a 4x, and now we have just x. So they moved the 4x over here to the left-hand side by subtracting it. So 5x minus 4x would just be x, and then minus 8 greater than, we still have negative 12 over here on the right-hand side. Then they needed to move this negative 8 over here to get our numbers together. So they add 8 to that negative 12. And that's how they got our final answer here, x greater than negative 4. So go ahead and take a minute here and do this practice problem. So if you need more time, you can pause the video here and keep working on it. But what I would have done first is I would have used the distributive property. So this says negative 2k minus 2 greater than negative 16 plus 5k. Now you can kind of decide, do you want to put your letters on the left-hand side? Do you want to put your numbers on the right-hand side? Which some of you might have went that direction just because you like the letter to be on the left. If you do that, though, you will have to end up dealing with that negative number in the front of the letter, which is fine. We talked about how to handle that, like what your rule is. If you don't like to deal with the negative, though, you could have always switched it and gone the other direction. I'm going to go ahead and just move 5K over to the left-hand side because I know a lot of students prefer to see the letter on the left-hand side anyway. So negative 2K minus 5K would be negative 7K. And then we still have minus 2 greater than negative 16. Then I would have added 2 over. So we have negative 7K is greater than negative 14. Last step I need to do is get K by itself. I'm going to be dividing by a negative 7. And so like I was telling you guys previously, I reminded you of this. We talked about this specifically in section 2. I'm dividing by a negative here. So I'm going to have to end up flipping my inequality sign so it says less than now. And then positive 2.